Ryan Reynolds here from Mint Mobile. I don't know if you knew this, but anyone can get the same premium wireless for $15 a month plan that I've been enjoying. It's not just for celebrities. So do like I did and have one of your assistants switch you to Mint Mobile today. I'm told it's super easy to do at mintmobile.com/switch.
Upfront payment of $45 for 3-month plan, equivalent to $15 per month required. Intro rate first 3 months only, then full price plan options available. Taxes and fees extra. See full terms at mintmobile.com.
We off?
30 seconds of carefree bliss.
Oof, like wind in your hair carefree.
Oh, like using Clorox Disinfecting All-Purpose Cleaner in the home carefree.
Yes!
Like dog slobbing on the coffee table and cleaning it with Clorox Carefree?
He's on a roll now.
Spit toothpaste on the faucet?
You got it. You got it.
Peanut butter on the light switch.
Oh, spritz, spritz.
Spritz, spritz. Clorox, man. Clean feels good.
Okay, we're back.
Use as directed.
Entering the realm between the hidden and forgotten, a slipstream caught between realities, a secret museum of the esoteric, the private library of shadows, all taking place in a world forged from mystery and caught between logic and myth. You are entering ParaReality.
Hello and welcome to the mysterious world of ParaReality, a reality where the unknown meets the unexplained and everything is a mystery. I'm Sandman, and I'm your host. Good evening, everybody, and thank you for joining me in the secret bunker for another episode of ParaReality, the podcast where we explore the unexplained, the mysterious, and the often disturbing. Tonight, we're taking a journey into one of the most baffling, unsolved cases in modern Texas history. We're going to be talking about Brandon Lawson. Brandon was a 26-year-old father, brother, and oil field worker who vanished without a trace on a dark stretch of highway in rural West Texas. Now, what sets this case apart is the frantic 911 call he made just minutes before he disappeared. It was filled with confusion, fear, and words that some say hint at something sinister, something otherworldly, or perhaps a deadly secret that he was never meant to discover. Was Brandon hallucinating from drugs or running for his life from a real threat? Why did it take nearly a decade for his remains to be found, and how did they end up in a place that was already searched by the authorities? Well, tonight we'll walk through the chilling facts of the troubling questions and the theories, both plausible and paranormal, that have kept this mystery alive for over a decade. So, turn down the lights, plug in your headphones, and join me as we walk the razor's edge between fact and theory in the case of Brandon Lawson. Because in this story, nothing is quite what it seems. And of course, to learn the whole thing, you'll have to turn on, tune in, and find out. But first, it is, of course, fan mail time, or should I say, welcome new listeners time. So I always take this moment to welcome new followers of the podcast, and I have 3 new followers tonight. The first one is Kristen Ballantyne. Then we have Screaming Customs and Simply Sheree. So welcome Kristen Ballantyne, Screaming Customs, and Sheree. Thank you all three for the follow. I've got over 2,000 followers, somewhere between 2,000 and 3,000. I haven't really counted it up yet, but got a few thousand followers now. So if you're listening to this podcast and you're not a regular follower, please be sure to do so. I think that you'll find this podcast differs from others like it by offering a different point of view from the norm. And I simply take the evidence and I present it to you, and I let you, the listener, make up your own mind and encourage you to do your own research. And if you don't follow me on the socials, maybe you follow me on the podcast outlets, but you don't follow me on the socials, well, I think you'll need to do that too, because it's where you can keep up with all the latest goings on with ParaReality, as well as get a look at a little bit of my personal life. You can look behind the scenes of the podcast and stuff. And I'll be giving you the deets on how you can do that later on in the podcast. So once again, thank you to new followers, Kristen Ballantyne, Screaming Customs, and Sheree. And before we get into the heart of the podcast, I've got some big news for you ParaReality fans out there. The ParaReality podcast is making its debut appearance at the Tennessee Wildman and Cryptid Con this August, and I couldn't be more excited. Mark your calendars. The date, Saturday, August 16th, 2025. Where? At Milner Recreation Center in McMinnville, Tennessee. This is a full day packed with guest speakers, experiencers, and experts covering everything from Bigfoot to Dogman, UFOs, and a whole lot more. If it's strange or unexplained or lurking in the woods, you'll hear about it here. And that's not all. There's a massive vendor hall featuring all the cryptid-themed merch you could ever want, plus local food trucks to keep you fueled while you're there. I'll be there, of course, with the ParaReality table and all my gear ready to meet you face to face. And if you've ever had some sort of unusual, mysterious, or just downright creepy experience, come find me, share your story, and it'll make it onto the podcast. So come hang out, talk weird with me, and be a part of the ParaReality community in person. For event details and tickets, visit the Tennessee Wildman and Cryptid Con page on Facebook. That's Tennessee Wildman and Cryptid Con. Just search it up and get your passes now. Until then, stay curious, and I will see you in the shadows.
Parents of tweens, if you're familiar with far-off drop-offs...
Dad, stop, right here.
Or get DMs about what's for dinner, you may be experiencing tween milestones. For your son or daughter, these can start at age 9. HPV vaccination, a type of cancer prevention against certain HPV-related cancers, can start then too.
For most, HPV clears on its own. But for those who don't clear the virus, it can cause certain cancers later in life.
Embrace this phase. Help protect them in the next.
Ask their doctor today about HPV vaccination. Brought to you by Merck.
Man, I can't wait to go to the Cryptid Con. It's going to be so much fun, and I can't wait to meet all you guys there. And just another little tidbit of info. I've always been teasing around that eventually one day I'm going to start trying to get into video stuff. So today, this podcast episode here is numero uno of me attempting to do a video podcast. So if you're listening to this and you want to see video, don't know why you would want to just see me behind a mic and talk, but if you want to see video, then head on over to my YouTube page. That's ParaReality 1 on YouTube, and you can see the video episode of this podcast. So getting on with things, man, this is just this is something that I've known about for a while. I've been him-hawing around about doing an episode about it. So, let's just get on, Bennett. Welcome back to the real heart of the matter here. At this podcast, I like to venture into, of course, obviously the unexplained, the mysterious, and the unsolved. And as I said, today we're going to be exploring one of Texas's most perplexing cases, which is the disappearance of Brandon Lawson. On August the 9th, 2013, 26-year-old Brandon Lawson was just a normal guy. He was a father. He had a job. He was a son. And his life took a strange turn on a quiet night near Bronte, Texas. His frantic 911 call, his abandoned vehicle, and the eerie silence that followed have left investigators and conspiracy theorists alike questioning what really happened on that night. Over 10 years later, his fate remains one of the most haunting mysteries of the Lone Star State. During the course of this episode, we're going to walk through his life. We're going to piece together what we know about the night that he disappeared. We're going to talk about the investigation and examine some of the wild theories, some plausible, others bordering on conspiracy, because we can't have this podcast without doing something like that, right? And as we're going to try to understand why Brandon's case remains unsolved after more than a decade. But before we begin, a real quick reminder, if you enjoy stories of the mysterious and unexplained, please subscribe to this podcast. Do a like and review. 3 stars or better would be great. It helps the podcast grow. Share this episode. Word of mouth works wonders. You don't have to do anything to help this podcast grow except for just share by word of mouth. And if you're going to leave a review, it would help this podcast grow greatly. I would really, really very much appreciate it. 3-star review or better. So now let's step into the shadows of Brandon Lawson's story. So who was Brandon Lawson? Well, Brandon Lawson was born in 1983 in Texas. He was known as a caring father. He was a hard worker, and his friends described him and, basically he was described by his friends and family as someone with a big heart, but also someone who did have personal demons, particularly substance abuse and mental health issues. He was a devoted father of 4 children. He worked long hours to provide for his family, and he was a man trying to hold his life together. But by August of 2013, he was reportedly overwhelmed. Family members recall arguments, financial stress, and concerns about his well-being. And on the night of August 8th, Brandon was at home, but something pushed him to leave abruptly. Now, the specifics of this are a little murky. We do know he had an argument with his longtime partner, Ladessa Lofton. And after that, he left their home, and it was around midnight. As a matter of fact, according to her, it was 11:54 p.m., and his intention was to drive to his father's house in Crowley, Texas, which is very strange because Crowley was about between a 2 and 3 hour journey. So why would you want to leave at midnight for a 3-hour journey, not getting to your dad's house until 3 a.m.? Kind of doesn't make a lot of sense, but you'll go to see that a lot of things about this case doesn't make sense. Now, around half an hour later, about 12:30 in the morning, Brandon called his brother Kyle and said that he had run out of gas on U.S. Route 277 near Bronte, Texas. And he also said that he had been, quote, chased out of town by Mexicans, whatever that means. Now, Kyle he attributed this to possible hallucinations from methamphetamine use. Now, supposedly Brandon had been clean for 6 months, and Kyle knew this, but he also knew that Brandon didn't have this problem with meth, and he asked Brandon if he was high, but Brandon denied it. He was upset. He was agitated, possibly under the influence. Whatever the cause, he left his truck behind. He left his wallet and his phone, and then 20 minutes after calling his brother, he made a chilling 911 call. So let's listen to this 911 call. It's a key piece of the puzzle. I want you to really pay attention to what it says, because some of it is intelligible. And we'll be revisiting this phone call again later on in the episode. So let me pull this up right here, and I want you to take a listen to the 911 call.
911 emergency.
Yes, I'm in the middle of the field. It's like we're just pushing guys over. Right here going towards Javelin on both sides. My truck ran out of gas. There's one car here. Got shaken to the woods. Please hurry.
Okay, now run that by me.
I'm not talking to him. I actually ran into him.
Ah, you ran into him. Okay.
Got the first guy.
Do you need an ambulance?
Yeah, no, I need the cops.
Okay. Is anybody hurt? Hello? Hello? Hello?
And that's it. The line is silent. In case you had a hard time understanding it, let me take a minute and try to translate this for you. So the 911 operator answers the call, and Brandon says, yes, I'm in the middle of a field. Something unintelligible. Just pushed some guys over. We're out here going towards Abilene on both sides. My truck ran out of gas. There's one car here. A guy's chasing me through the woods. Please hurry. The 911 operator says, okay, now run that by me one more. Brandon, there'll be no talking to him. I accidentally ran into him. 911 operator, oh, you ran into him. Okay. Brandon, and then on his end, someone says something in the background, don't know what it is, and Brandon says something that's inaudible. Then he goes on to say, the first guy, and a loud noise like a gunshot's heard in the background. The 911 operator comes back. Do you need an ambulance? Once again, someone says something in the background at the same time on Brandon's end. It sounds like Brandon or somebody chuckles and says, yeah. Some people say it's not Brandon's voice saying yeah. I don't think that it is Brandon's voice saying yeah, but Brandon definitely does say, no, I need the cops. The operator comes back and says, okay, is anyone hurt? Silence. Then, of course, the hello from the 911 operator. Brandon doesn't respond. A background noise gets a little bit louder and louder, like it's getting closer to the phone, and you can hear Brandon panting. You can hear the panic in his voice. His words are filled with fear. And a few seconds later, silence. The call is disjointed. It's filled with static and confusion. Was Brandon hallucinating? Or was he genuinely in danger? Now, get this, okay? Here's something very, very interesting. The 911 operator who took this call wasn't in a dispatch center. This person was actually working from a nursing home and may have lacked the proper training. She failed to gather some crucial information that was needed to send someone to look for Brandon. To her credit, though, she did call him back, but the phone went straight to his voicemail. So not knowing where he was, she couldn't send any help. Now, witnesses nearby say they saw a man matching Brandon's description running across the road. And some say that he was barefoot and others say that he was only wearing socks. Kyle, his brother, along with his wife and child, drove to the area to bring Brandon gas. And when they arrived at his truck, it was around 10 after 1 in the morning. And Brandon obviously was nowhere to be found. There was a sheriff's deputy that eventually arrived, but he couldn't find Brandon either. Now, Kyle called Brandon on his phone, and he actually got hold of Brandon. And Brandon claimed that he could see them. He said, I can see you. I'm right here. Yet neither Kyle or the deputy could locate Brandon. And Brandon also told Kyle that he was bleeding. And after 1:19 a.m., Brandon's phone stopped ringing and it started going straight to voicemail. And after that, he was never heard from again. Now, this area is remote. It's agricultural land. There's dense woods. There's bodies of water. It's perfect for someone to vanish without a trace. At this time, a sheriff's deputy had arrived, like I said, and he was supposedly down the road responding to a trucker's report about Brandon's truck being parked hazardously close to the highway. So that's how the deputy found that where Kyle was. So the deputy and Kyle, they checked out Brandon's truck. It was a Ford F-150, and they found it to be unlocked. Brandon's keys and his cell phone were missing. Presumably he took them with him because, after all, Kyle was calling him on his cell phone. He was answering it. Now, there wasn't any signs of a struggle. There was no signs of any kind of violence. The deputy and the brother, Kyle, they searched the immediate area. They couldn't find any signs of Brandon. There were no footprints leading away. There was no body. There was no further clues. There was no blood. There was nothing. They couldn't find him. And then, after he was missing for several hours, the authorities finally agreed to do a intense search effort. At first, for whatever reason, the authorities were a little reluctant to do this. And we can get into some speculation about that, why in a little bit. But initial attempts to get them to do a really good, thorough, intense search were met with a little bit of resistance. But they did do one. And despite that, there were dogs, helicopters, ground teams, all that, despite all that, the trail went cold. They couldn't find him. Of course, you can imagine, family's devastated. His mother, Susan Lawson, said that he was scared that night. And she said that she believed he ran because he was trying to escape something or someone. Like I said, the search, when it was conducted, was extensive. Law enforcement and volunteers scoured the area, yet no trace of Brandon was ever found. And this case gained national attention, with podcasts like Crime Junkie and The Vanished covering this mysterious disappearance. Online communities, including Reddit's r/unresolved mysteries, buzzed with theories and speculation. Some early hypotheses about what happened. Well, did Brandon fall into a body of water? Remember, there's a lot of woods, there's a lot of bodies of water around there. Did he get lost in the woods? Was he abducted? Or did he intentionally walk away, overwhelmed by his personal issues or external pressures, and was just like, I'm disappearing, I'm starting over? All plausible. And still no resolution. Years passed. Nothing was found. Brandon was never heard from. And then in February of 2022, a breakthrough. Volunteers discovered clothing matching what Brandon was last seen wearing, and this clothing was found near where he had left his truck. The Texas Rangers came in, conducted a subsequent search, and found human remains in the area. The remains were identified as belonging to Brandon Lawson. And after some further investigation, they finally released his cause of death, which is believed to be related to a possible mental episode. Possibly meth-induced and subsequent accidental death, according to a Reddit thread. A Facebook post mentions that his remains were found near his last known location, and theory suggests that he may have wandered into the woods and died from exposure or dehydration, particularly due to his substance abuse history. So something that seems a little suspicious to me is the area where Brandon's remains were found. This was an area that, well, it had already been supposedly thoroughly searched by law enforcement and volunteers, right? Yet years later, here are Brandon's bones. It kind of reminds me of the missing 411 cases that David Paulides has made famous. The difference between the missing 411 cases and Brandon's case is that all the missing 411 disappearances occurred in or near national parks. And the closest national park to Bronte, where Brandon disappeared, is Big Bend National Park, and that's about 300 miles away. So you can't correlate Brandon Lawson's disappearance to the missing 411 cases. But I do find it funny and highly coincidental that his remains were found in an area that had already been thoroughly searched before by both volunteers and law enforcement. That to me is, I don't know, that's very, very suspicious, very unusual. Like I said, DNA test results did confirm. Now, this was in December of this is actually Christmas Day of 2024. So it took a couple of years, but DNA test results did confirm that the remains belonged to Brandon Lawson, which, did provide a closure to his family after more than a decade. But despite this discovery of the body, or what was left of it, there are questions that remain, like what happened to him that night? Was he hallucinating, or was there even a real threat? So let's take an in-depth look at some of the more popular theories that happened to Brandon, including some conspiracy theories. Some of these are logical, some are a little bit more speculative, but they all share the common goal of trying to attempt to explain Brandon's disappearance. First, I'll discuss the most popular theories of what happened to him before his remains were found. Then we'll talk about some of the more popular conspiracy theories, the questions that still need answering. So, theory number one. Now remember, these are all theories before his body were found, his remains were found. This is called the waterfall hypothesis. One of the simplest explanations is that Brandon fell into a body of water and drowned. Given the area's water-rich landscape, some believed that he became overwhelmed or panicked for whatever reason, possibly because he was under the influence of some drug, maybe methamphetamine, because that was what he used the most, and just fell into one of these bodies of water during his frantic run through the woods and drowned. So, like I said, the area around that U.S. Route 277 where he disappeared had a lot of it. Not only was it wooded, but it had a lot of bodies of water, ponds, creeks, marshland, stuff like that. And Brandon might have been in or near a body of water. Now, like I said, this was a theory that happened before he disappeared, and we can rule this out because his clothes and his bones were found on dry land, nowhere near a body of water. So that one is X'd out. Theory number two is an abduction type scenario. So this is, another possibility is that he was kidnapped. He was alone. He was in some sort of distress for whatever reason, and he was in a vulnerable state. And remember, there were some witnesses that said they saw a man that matched his description that was running down the road, but no one saw him get into a vehicle. So could someone have been waiting nearby ready to, snatch him up? Now, the remote area could have served as a perfect staging point for some sort of an abduction, but there were no ransom demands. There were no signs of kidnapping that were ever emerged. And besides all of that, if he had been kidnapped and killed, then why would the kidnappers dump the body at the site where the kidnapping took place? It doesn't make any sense. So I think we can rule this theory out too. Now, you can say, well, why the hell would someone want to kidnap Brandon Lawson? Well, remember, he had a long history of drug problems, right? So if he was back on the meth, Maybe he owed his dealer some money. Maybe he owed his dealer a lot of money, and maybe that's who was chasing him out of town. Maybe it wasn't Mexicans like he said. Maybe Kyle misunderstood him. I don't know. So it could have been that if he was back on meth, he might have owed his dealer some money or a lot of it. And his dealer was the one that was chasing him out of town, and that's why he ran. And eventually he ran out of gas. The dealer caught up to him, or the thugs that he had following him caught up to him, and they took him off and, got payment out of him in one shape, form, or fashion. That is a very plausible theory. However, I think we're going to have to rule it out because they found his body basically in the same spot where he disappeared 10 years later. So why would you successfully kidnap someone, take them off somewhere, kill them, and then take the body right back to the area where you kidnapped him from? Because you're risking a lot by doing that. I don't have to get into all the details of that for you guys to know what you're risking by doing that. So it just doesn't make sense. Another theory is that he chose to disappear. Now, some believe that Brandon decided to leave his life behind because he was overwhelmed by debt, mental health issues, threats. Maybe, like I said, he got back into trouble with his drug dealer, and he wanted to just get out and make a fresh start. Now, remember, he had a history of substance abuse, and he had these mental health struggles, and these things could have driven him to try to escape all of that. People did claim to have seen him in other states after his disappearance, but we have the body. We have the bones. We have the remains. So that rules this out with him trying to secretly start his life over somewhere. And besides that, the assumptions of his flight, the panic in his voice, and the fact that he left behind everything he owned kind of made this a less convincing theory anyway, but yet it was one of the more popular theories of what happened. So the three most popular theories were the waterfall hypothesis, where he drowned in a body of water, the abduction hypothesis, where he was abducted by someone, and then we have the third one, which is he chose to disappear. And we can, I think, because we do have remains that were conclusively proven to be his, I think we can take all of those and definitely throw them out in the garbage, because none of them stick, right? So that leaves us with nothing but more speculation, more on the conspiracy theory side of it. So let's take a look at these conspiracy theories, because there are a lot more conspiracy theories behind what happened to Brandon than there are other theories. So the first one is that there's some sort of paranormal or supernatural explanation. This is a more fringe theory and involves supernatural forces. Some locals and online forums speculate that the area where he disappeared was haunted or cursed somehow, and that explains him vanishing. He ran out of gas, and some paranormal event happened to him, and he just was in the wrong place at the wrong time and got paranormaled away. Witnesses have reported strange lights and unexplained sounds in the area where he disappeared, and some believe that maybe some of those lights could be, or some of those unexplained sounds could be his spirit that remains trapped near the area that it's trying to communicate. Others have said that the strange lights and the unexplained sounds have been going on decades before Brandon disappeared. So, once again, you had to take that with a grain of salt. I don't think that there was I don't think he got paranormaled away, as I said. The second theory is that he got mixed up. He somehow stumbled on some sort of illegal activity, and it was maybe some sort of secret government operation type deal that caused him to disappear. Maybe he stumbled on something like a drug trafficking, a black ops mission, or some sort of covert government experiment and was eliminated or silenced. And believers of this theory point to the secrecy surrounding his call and the remote location as supporting evidence. Now, the secrecy surrounding his call is not necessarily a secret. It's just that for whatever reason, the police department waited a while before they released the audio of that. And I don't know why. A third theory is that he had some sort of mental health crisis, a psychological breakdown. He was supposedly under some sort of immense stress. And you can imagine being 26, working a manual labor job, probably wasn't making that much money. He had 4 kids that he was trying to support, plus his living girlfriend. So maybe, and he had mental health problems and drug abuse problems. So maybe he experienced some sort of psychotic break or disassociation, and that caused him to run away and hide. Maybe he was in some sort of mental health crisis. You know, not necessarily a paranormal or conspiracy theory type belief there, but it does kind of go in with the fact that maybe there were some psychological issues underlying all of this that caused him to disappear. We also have the accidental self-harm theory that he may have injured himself accidentally. Maybe he fell, got lost, or was hurt during his run through the woods, and without anyone being able to find him, no one witnessed the incident. Maybe he succumbed to the elements, or maybe he told his brother Kyle he was bleeding. Maybe he was bleeding profusely and bled out and died. But that doesn't explain why he was running. Why did he go through the woods? You have to go back to, was he experiencing some sort of mental health crisis? Was it a psychological break, or was it drugs, or was it both? We don't know. And theory number 5 is one of the better theories, I think. It's one that I kind of get into. It's the alien abduction theory. Now, I know what I'm about to say may raise some eyebrows, but here on the ParaReality podcast, we leave no stone unturned, right? We've talked about meth-induced hallucinations, foul play, and even government cover-ups. But what if Brandon Lawson wasn't just running from people, but from something not of this world? That's right. I'm talking about the alien abduction theory. Now, hear me out, okay? Let's go back to Brandon's 911 call. It's disjointed. It's frantic. He's clearly terrified, but what exactly is he trying to describe? He says, there's one car here. A guy's chasing me through the woods. There'll be no talking to him. Those lines sound panicked. Yeah, they do. But they also sound strange, almost like he's describing something unfamiliar, something he doesn't understand. And if you listen closely, it almost sounds like multiple entities might be involved. At one point, another voice is faintly heard in the background. Could this be someone or something with him? And what about the fact that his body wasn't found for nearly a decade, despite thorough searches of the area where he disappeared? Then suddenly, out of the blue, his remains are discovered in an area that had already been searched thoroughly by volunteers and law enforcement. Now, some people would say it feels almost like he was returned. And that aligns with stories of other alleged alien abductions where people vanish without a trace, only to reappear sometimes hours, sometimes years later. The abductee is often confused, or in this case found deceased in a location that doesn't quite make sense. Now, I'm not saying that little green men snatched Brandon Lawson off the side of Route 277, but I am saying that there are elements of his disappearance that match patterns we've seen in otherworldly encounters, especially those in rural areas under cover of darkness and involving people in distressed mental states. It's almost like certain people are targeted when they're most vulnerable. And remember, this wasn't a crowded urban center, right? This was a remote stretch of Texas highway, prime territory, according to many UFO researchers, for strange encounters that leave little evidence behind. No UFOs were reported that night, no strange lights, no time slips, but sometimes the absence of typical signs is what makes cases like this so chilling. So, was Brandon Lawson abducted by something not of this earth? We may never know. But if we don't consider every possibility, even the ones that are more far out, the ones that are more out there, we risk overlooking the truth no matter how strange it may be. So what do you think? Could it have been alien contact? Was it human foul play or a tragic accident misunderstood through the lens of fear and mystery? Let me know what your thoughts are. And if you've ever had an experience that feels unexplainable, reach out to me. And you might just be the next story that I explore here on ParaReality. So finally, we're coming to this final theory, which just so happens to be besides the alien abduction theory, this one happens to be my favorite, and it's also, in my opinion, the most plausible. And this is that there was a law enforcement or a criminal kind of cover-up. So this is among probably the most controversial theories as to what happened to Brandon, but some believe, as do I, that Brandon stumbled onto something dangerous, maybe illegal activity or corruption of some sort, something like that, and he was silenced by law enforcement. So rumors circulate that Brandon used something, let's just say illicit, maybe drugs or organized crime, something like that. Remember, he was a known drug user, so he was exposed to knowledge of illegal and illicit things. So maybe he found out something he wasn't supposed to. The handling of the investigation by law enforcement in its early stages was widely criticized, and for quite a long time, they appeared to be really uninterested in solving the case. And remember, it took them a little bit before they decided to even mount a search. The location, because it's so remote and the lack of any physical evidence, kind of fuel this suspicion that there maybe have been a cover-up that was going on. Some people think that Brandon's call was made in fear of being followed or being harmed. And I think you could quite plainly hear that in the 911 call. And remember, speaking of that 911 call, I said earlier that it took a long time for that audio to be released. And this has caused a lot of conspiracy theorists, myself included, to speculate that the delay in this suggests the recording may have been altered, or that they were not looking to release it just to keep a hindrance on the investigation. So supporting evidence for this criminal cover-up by law enforcement, like I said, this is one of the more popular theories out there, and one that I happen to think is maybe the most plausible. There's been no official evidence that supports these claims. I want to go on record for saying that. But is there, though? Maybe there is. So let's take another listen to Brandon's 911 call, and let's pay close attention to one of the very first things that he says.
Right here going towards Javelin on both sides. My truck ran out of gas. There's one car here that got shaken to the woods. Please hurry.
Okay, now run that by me.
I'm not talking to him. I actually ran into him.
Ah, you ran into him. Okay.
That's the first guy.
Do you need an ambulance?
Yeah, no, I need the cops.
Okay. Is anybody hurt? Hello? Hello? Hello?
There are the three hellos with no response from Brandon. So, did you hear anything different that time around? Were you listening closely? What if I told you that Brandon said this? A staper just pushed some guys over. A staper just pushed some guys over. Now, in Texas, the word staper is slang for state trooper. So my personal theory is that maybe a dirty state trooper had pulled some guys over for whatever reason and did something nefarious, like they killed somebody or maybe multiple somebodies, and maybe Brandon witnessed it, or he witnessed something else that happened that night that he wasn't supposed to see that was involving a state trooper. Or maybe Brandon himself was pulled over by a state trooper and the situation just escalated from there. Now, you can clearly hear another guy in the background say that guy's done right after what could be the sound of a gunshot. So there was someone with Brandon wherever or whenever he made that 911 call. And that someone could have been a Texas state trooper or staper. Maybe it's time to check which state troopers were in that area at the time the 911 call was placed. So once again, listen to this and tell me if you don't hear where he says a staper just pushed some guys over.
911 emergency.
Yes, I'm in the middle of the field. A staper just pushed some guys over. Right here going towards Javelin on both sides.
Did you hear that? Yes, I'm in the middle of a field. A staper just pushed some guys over out here going towards Abilene on both sides. Let's hear that one more time.
911 emergency.
Yes, I'm in the middle of the field. A staper just pushed some guys over. Right here going towards Javelin on both sides.
That's what it sounds like he said to me. A staper just pushed some guys over. Or maybe it could be a staper just pulled some guys over. But I think he does say staper. And if that's true, staper is Texas slang for a state trooper. So what do you guys think about that? Now, that's my personal theory that I think is probably the most plausible as to what happened to Brandon. Now, I'm not the only, I want to say this, I am not the only person who thinks that he said staper. I am pretty sure, though, that that's what he says. I did not come up with this theory by myself. As I was researching this, like I said, I've known about this case for a long time. As I was researching for the this episode here, I kept listening to that 911 call over and over and over again. So I finally just typed in transcript. Brandon Lawson 911 call transcript, I think is what I typed into a Google search. And then I started getting on there, different people who think different things. And then I ran across where someone said that they thought he said staper. And I didn't know what a staper was. I was like, why would he say staper? That makes no sense. So I did a Google search for staper, and sure enough, that is a slang term for Texas state trooper. So did he run into a Texas state trooper? And, maybe he witnessed something that he wasn't supposed to, and got in trouble for it, paid the ultimate price. We may never know.
Running a business comes with a lot of what ifs, but luckily there's a simple answer to them: Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku, and it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
So, to help us better understand the complexities of Brandon Lawson's case, I reached out to a forensic psychologist, someone that had over 20 years of experience working on missing persons cases and criminal investigations. And this person asked not to be identified. And what we did was basically I interviewed her via email. I can't say that it is a female. She's fine with that. She's helped law enforcement analyze suspect behaviors, victim profiles, and the psychological factors at play in lots of mysterious disappearances. So I am doing an experiment, let's say, with this. So I emailed her some questions, which she answered. And to kind of help with the content of the show, what I did was I took her email answers and I put them into AI, and I have AI answering the questions that I emailed to her. So we're calling her Dr. Emily Carter. And without further ado, this is an audio version of my email talk with Dr. Emily Carter. To help us better understand the complexities of Brandon Lawson's case, I've reached out to Dr. Emily Carter, a forensic psychologist with over 20 years of experience working on missing persons cases and criminal investigations. She's helped law enforcement analyze suspect behaviors, victim profiles, and the psychological factors at play in mysterious disappearances. Dr. Carter, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me. It's always important to shed light on these difficult cases to understand what might be happening beneath the surface.
Brandon's case is particularly perplexing because of the combination of the frantic 911 call, the remote location, and the lack of any concrete leads. Based on your experience, what are some of the most likely scenarios in cases like this?
Well, when we look at cases like Brandon's, there are a few common patterns. First, the frantic call indicates immediate fear, probably someone was chasing him or he was in a state of extreme distress. That suggests either a threat he perceived or an acute mental health crisis. In remote areas, it's not uncommon for individuals to become disoriented or panic-stricken, especially if they're under the influence or mentally unstable. They might run, hide, or even fall victim to accidents without anyone witnessing.
Many people speculate about foul play. From a psychological standpoint, how do investigators differentiate between a voluntary disappearance and something more sinister?
Great question. There are a few indicators. For example, if a person is abducted, there are often signs of struggle, witnesses seeing suspicious vehicles or individuals, or ransom demands. But in cases where someone vanishes quietly, we look at things like the person's mental state, their known behaviors, and whether there are any suspicious circumstances leading up to their disappearance. In Brandon's case, the abrupt abandonment of his vehicle and the panicked call point to someone in distress. If he was abducted, we would expect evidence of forced entry or signs of an altercation, which seem absent here. That makes the voluntary or accidental disappearance theories more plausible, though not definitive.
Some conspiracy theories suggest that Brandon might have stumbled onto something dangerous, perhaps illegal activity or corruption or something like that, and he was silenced. From your perspective, how credible are these kinds of theories?
While I can't dismiss the possibility entirely, most law enforcement agencies operate with a high standard of evidence. Cover-ups do happen, but they are the exception rather than the rule. Usually, cases involving organized crime or corruption have more tangible leads, ransom notes, surveillance footage, or witnesses. In Brandon's case, the lack of physical evidence points more toward an accident or voluntary disappearance. That said, I wouldn't rule out foul play entirely, especially in cases where motive or opportunity exists.
Finally, Brandon's call was made in panic, and he seemed genuinely frightened. Do you think his mental state at the time played a role in his disappearance?
Absolutely. If Brandon was under the influence, experiencing a mental health crisis, or both, his perception of threat and reality could have been distorted. Under extreme stress, people sometimes run or hide without fully understanding why, sometimes even walking into danger or getting lost. In some cases, individuals with mental health issues or substance use disorders are more prone to disappearance, especially in unfamiliar or frightening environments.
Thank you so much, Dr. Carter. Your insights really help us to understand how complex these cases are and why sometimes the truth remains elusive for so long.
My pleasure. Remember, each disappearance is unique, and understanding the human mind is crucial in piecing together what might have happened.
So that was my quote-unquote interview with Dr. Emily Carter. Once again, I'm going to caveat this by saying Dr. Emily Carter, not her real name. And obviously, this was not a face-to-face interview with a real person. I asked her the questions via email. She answered me, and then for some creative license, I translated that in the form of an AI voice and conducted my quote-unquote interview using an artificial intelligence generated voice to answer the questions that she answered me in an email. So please do not go around saying that I faked anything. That is not true at all. It's taking some creative license and just using an AI voice to basically translate what was answered to me in an email. So I want to thank once again Dr. Carter for answering my questions. Like I said, Dr. Emily Carter is not her real name, but she is a real person who is a forensic psychologist who specializes in missing persons. Her insights remind us how much human psychology influences these cases and how unpredictable the mind can be in moments of extreme stress or danger. Brandon Lawson's case continues to puzzle investigators and the public alike, with theories ranging from accidental death to conspiracy. What do you believe happened to Brandon that night? If you have any information, please contact the authorities because your tip might help solve this decades-old mystery. Now, in conclusion here, I want to say that despite the confirmation that the remains found were Brandon's, his case remains unsolved. There are lots of theories that are going around, but definitive answers are elusive. Brandon Lawson's disappearance is a stark reminder of how fragile life can be and how some mysteries defy explanation. Whether driven by fear, foul play, or something beyond our understanding, the truth in this case remains elusive. His family still hopes for closure. Law enforcement, they're still receiving tips, and new searches are occasionally conducted. But the truth continues to hide beneath layers of speculation, conspiracy, and the unknown. So what do you believe? Was Brandon running from danger? Did he fall victim to foul play? Or is there something even darker at play? As I close tonight's episode, we're left with more questions than answers. Was Brandon fleeing from danger? Was he abducted? Or did something more sinister occur that night? The shadows continue to hide the truth. But if you have any information, reach out to the Texas Rangers because they continue to investigate this case. Anyone with any information is encouraged to contact the Texas Crime Stoppers hotline at 1-800-252-TIPS. That's 1-800-252-TIPS. 1-800-252-8477. That's 1-800-252-8477. Your tip might be the key to solving this decades-old mystery. So if tonight's story has left you questioning reality, then good. That means you're exactly where I want you to be.
So, you just started using LinkedIn Premium. Now what? Well, on your premium company page, you noticed around 7.5 times more page engagement and 5 times more page views. Well done. And now, new clients are messaging you. All because you're using LinkedIn Premium, which helps you get the business growth you want. Think big, small business. Think big. Start your free trial at linkedin.com/premium small business. That's linkedin.com/premium small business.
Now, before I close out tonight's episode, I want to open the floor to you, the listeners. We just explored the possibility, however strange and implausible some of these theories may be, that Brandon Lawson may have encountered something not of this world. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had a UFO sighting? Have you experienced things like missing time? Have you seen strange lights, had bizarre dreams, or a feeling like you were being watched out in the middle of nowhere? Whether it was a fleeting moment or a life-altering encounter, I want to know about it. I'll be dedicating an upcoming listener episode to stories of alien contact, high strangeness, and unexplained encounters from people just like you. And yes, it could include possible abductions. And yes, it could include your story. So here's how you can share your story with me. You can call the Secret Bunker line at 615-492-4364. That number once again to call. 615-492-4364 and leave a voicemail. Or you can send a voice memo or email to my email address, sandman@ParaReality.com. That's sandman@ParaReality.com. Make sure you have in the subject line, abduction story. So once again, the two ways you can get me your story: call the Secret Bunker hotline, 615-492-4364, leave a voicemail, or send a voicemail or email to me with the subject alien or abduction story in the headlines, sandman@ParaReality.com. That's sandman@ParaReality.com. Please try to keep your story 5 minutes or less if you can, and be sure to let me know if you'd like your name used or if you prefer to remain anonymous. If you're telling your story on the voicemail and you get cut off, you run out of time, call back and pick up where you left off. I want to hear your complete story. So if something weird has ever happened to you, something that didn't quite fit into what we call normal life, don't keep it to yourself. Tell me your story. Get it on the podcast. You never know who else out there may have experienced the exact same thing. I'll be compiling the most chilling, mysterious, and thought-provoking stories for a special upcoming episode, and maybe, just maybe, we'll uncover a pattern hiding in plain sight. Thank you for joining me on ParaReality tonight. If you found this story compelling, make sure to subscribe, leave a review, and share the show with fellow seekers of the strange and unexplained. This has been the ParaReality Podcast. My name is Sandman. I'm your host, and I'm reminding you that the truth is out there, hiding in plain sight, or buried beneath the shadows. So until next time, stay safe, stay curious, but don't look away. And you know what? I want to tell you, you've got the new phone number, right? That to the Secret Bunker, 615-492-4364. my old number, I was using Skype, and it just Skype, no longer being used. So I've had to get a new number. And for now, this is it, 615-492-4364. I am pleased to say before I go that I want you guys to know that I've relaunched my official Patreon page, and for as little as $1 a month, you can get commercial-free episodes and other bonus content. And for just a few bucks more, you'll also have access to my companion podcasts. I was calling it a deeper dive. I'm calling it Beyond Reality. I've changed the name. And this is a 20 to 30 minute long podcast that takes a little bit deeper dive into some of the topics that I touch here on the main podcast. And also you'll get a chance to appear as a guest on the podcast. You'll get a chance to maybe contribute to some content. Now, subscribing to my Patreon not only helps support the podcast here, but it also helps me continue to bring quality content to you on a regular basis. To learn more or to join, just go to patreon.com/ParaReality. And you may be like me, you may not be much of a joiner, you don't like to do stuff like that. Well, look, there's a 7-day free trial. Try the 7-day free trial. If you don't like it, you don't have to pay. The easiest thing that you can do to help me my goal is to get this podcast into the ears of as many listeners as I can. And I know I'm not trying to be Joe Rogan and make $1 million. I know that is not a realistic thing for me to be one of those people that's going to get paid doing this podcast. It would be great, but it's not going to happen. I look at it more realistically. I'm just trying to get for my main goal, I'm just trying to get this podcast in the ears of as many people as I can. So if you want to help me do that, but you're not a joiner and don't want to join Patreon, just leave me a 3-star review or better, and just do word of mouth. Tell your friends about the podcast, especially if you know people who are into the paranormal and the strange and unusual and wants a podcast that's maybe a little bit different, maybe comes from a little bit more of a skeptical side, a more logical side, and one that has no preset agenda. That's this podcast. So just tell your friends, tell people who like to listen to this type of podcast about ParaReality. I would greatly, greatly appreciate it. I hope that you have enjoyed tonight's episode. Next episode is going to drop on June 20th, 2025. I'm going to do my first episode of my summer series. And this year, the summer series is going to be all about Bigfoot. So I can't wait for that. And I hope you guys will tune in, and find out. I hope that this podcast opened up your minds to new ways of thinking, expands your consciousness, and produces a change in the way you see the world. If you wish to change, you must lift the veil of ignorance that has been cast over your eyes. Only then will you see the true power of the universe. Hope you have a wonderful evening and a great weekend, and I will see you again on June the 20th. Good night, everybody.
If you wish to change, you must first lift the veil of ignorance that has been cast over your eyes. Only then will you see the true power of the universe.
Hey, it's not over. Thanks for sticking around. I got something to tell you. Do you want to be a member of the Secret Sanctum? Well, if you do, there's only one way to do that. Somewhere on ParaReality.com is a link hidden in my website. And if you can find that link and click on it, you'll be granted access to the secret bunker, and you'll become a member of the Secret Sanctum. It's 100% free. It's not going to cost you anything. And once you become a member, you'll have access to some secret audio files and secret documents, some of which are exclusive only to ParaReality and the members of the Secret Sanctum. You'll also get a free ParaReality Secret Sanctum t-shirt. Just fill out the form and let me know what size you are, where you're located in your name, and I'll get that right out to you. So if you want to be a member of the ParaReality Secret Sanctum and have access to the secret bunker, find the link.